It's officially over for Drake. The Iceman didn't just melt, he evaporated. What's coming out now is catastrophic. Album scrapped, rollout dead, the spiral completely out of control. You thought the beef destroyed him? You haven't seen anything yet. If you're ready to watch the stands hit their lowest point ever, smash that like button, because the King of the North, he just got permanently frozen out of his own kingdom. Everyone thought they had the full story on Iceman. Drake was in the lab, cooking his revenge. His stands were convinced he had a calculated, surgical master plan to annihilate every single person who came at him during the beef. That was the version the internet ran with for months. But now, insider sources just confirmed what a lot of us already suspected. The album's been scrapped, again, for the 4th time. And the excuse they're feeding the public? Straight up insulting. The entire narrative is unraveling because Drake's team has been lying directly to your face. And this time, we've got the receipts to prove every single word of it. Let me break this down properly, because this is exactly where Drake's entire camp starts falling apart at the seams. Our insider sources, the same ones who've been accurate on every major music drop across this entire year, just dropped something that changes everything. They confirmed Drake was supposed to release something last week. New music, new rollout content, something designed to keep the Iceman hype breathing. But at the very last second, everything got pulled. Drake went ghost, radio silence, and then his team pushed out a statement that should have every Drake fan seriously questioning what's really happening behind those closed doors. Iceman is now being finished for the 4th time. No information on episode 4 or a release date as of now. The 4th time. Let that sink in for a moment. This is the same artist who was dropping albums almost every single year since 2009. The guy who built his entire empire on consistency, on always staying locked in the culture, always keeping his name on everybody's lips. And now, he's reworking the same project for the 4th time with zero end in sight. And these aren't random sources. These are the same insiders who called the Kendrick drops before they happened, who knew exactly what Metro Boomin was planning, who had Future's project details weeks before anyone else. Their track record is nearly flawless. So when they confirm with full confidence that Drake delayed this thing again, you'd better believe it's real. But here's where it gets even more suspicious. DJ Akademiks, Drake's self-appointed biggest cheerleader and unofficial mouthpiece, had previously mentioned that Drake was working on multiple versions of Iceman, multiple iterations, different creative directions. But now we're finding out it wasn't just 2 or 3 experimental versions, it's 4 completely different attempts at building this album. For most artists, that kind of time investment would signal something extraordinary, a masterpiece in the making, a once-in-a-generation body of work, the kind of project that reshapes entire genres. But this is Drake we're talking about, the same guy who built a career on grabbing whatever 20 trending sounds were circulating, stitching them together, calling it an album, and flooding the streams. Effort was never really the brand. So why the constant restarts? Why the endless reworking? Why can't he lock in a single creative vision and execute on it? The answer is painfully obvious to anyone paying attention. He has absolutely zero confidence in what he's putting together. This isn't perfectionism. This isn't artistic dedication. This is fear. This is an artist who knows deep down that whatever he drops next is going to be held up against everything Kendrick did to him. Every bar will be dissected. Every concept will be questioned. Every track will be weighed against the crushing reality of that loss. And Drake knows the math doesn't work in his favor musically right now. Fans online turned into full detectives the second this news dropped. They started digging up old interviews, old tweets, old promises Drake and his team made months ago about Iceman. They built timelines. They cataloged every single instance where Drake or someone on his team hyped up this project only to go completely silent for weeks at a stretch. And what did all that research reveal? A pattern of lies, a pattern of excuses, a pattern of an artist who is clearly not in possession of the creative goods needed to back up all the noise he's been making. Now let's get into the motive, because this is where everything snaps into focus, and it gets significantly crazier. Drake's entire Iceman rollout strategy was constructed on a single foundation: revenge. He wanted to prove the doubters wrong. He wanted to demonstrate that absorbing that L from Kendrick didn't matter. He wanted to reclaim his position at the undisputed top of hip-hop culture. That was the story he sold to his fan base. That was the promise he quietly made to himself. But here's where the whole thing collapses under its own weight. Drake has been carrying serious credibility damage for months now. His reputation took repeated, compounding hits during and after the Kendrick battle. Not Like Us didn't just win a beef, it became a full cultural landmark that completely buried anything Drake attempted in response. The memes, the replays, the constant reminders of exactly how that chapter ended. It accumulated into something he can't just shake off with a surprise drop and a clever rollout strategy. Think about where Drake was before all this unfolded. He was considered untouchable by nearly everyone in the industry, the biggest artist on the planet, the name that guaranteed number ones, the presence that made other artists nervous before they even stepped into a booth. But after the beef, after getting dismantled lyrically in front of the entire internet, after watching Kendrick perform Not Like Us on major stages with the crowd going absolutely unhinged every single time, Drake's aura shattered, not cracked, shattered. At his peak, the numbers were staggering. Hundreds of millions flowing from tours, streaming, brand partnerships, and deals. The entire commercial ecosystem of hip-hop revolved around him. But now the public perception has fundamentally shifted. The respect has gone. The mystique is dead. The fear that other artists used to feel, replaced by something closer to pity, or worse, amusement. And when your entire identity is built around being the biggest and the best, that kind of fall hits on a completely different level than it would for almost anyone else. Meanwhile, Kendrick is still out here reminding everyone exactly why his name gets mentioned alongside the all-time greats. The music connects, the performances land, the legacy keeps expanding. He doesn't even have to say anything about Drake anymore. The silence itself does the damage. That has to be genuinely eating Drake alive. Real envy, real helplessness, real frustration from someone who can't control the narrative anymore no matter how many cryptic posts he drops. Stack all of that together and the picture becomes undeniable. This is an artist paralyzed by pressure, someone who knows in his gut that whatever he releases will not be enough to undo the damage, someone desperately trying to recapture something that's already been taken from him permanently. And then his recent behavior makes every bit of this worse. The cryptic Instagram posts, the calculated appearances with streamers like Adin Ross, the endless teasing of music that never materializes into anything real. It's not strategy, it's desperation. It's someone stalling because they have no actual plan, just a hope that if they keep the conversation alive long enough, something will change. The Iceman rollout was supposed to be Drake's redemption arc, the comeback narrative. The moment he silenced every critic and reminded the world what he was truly capable of. Instead, it's quietly become the most embarrassing album rollout in recent hip-hop memory. And the longer it drags out, the deeper that hole gets. Then there's the leaks situation, which is where Drake's team really exposed themselves trying to cover their tracks. They pushed this story about hackers and extortionists, people allegedly getting hold of unreleased Iceman tracks and threatening to drop them unless Drake paid. That was the story they wanted everyone running with. But here's the problem with that narrative. DJ Akademiks, the same person amplifying this hacker storyline, was simultaneously the one previewing the alleged leaked songs. So either Akademiks is personally embedded with the hacking crew, which makes zero sense, or this entire story was manufactured to buy Drake's camp more breathing room and misdirect the conversation. And when those leaked tracks actually surfaced, they sounded uninspired, bland, derivative. Some of them barely passed the demo phase in terms of production and concept. There's nowhere near enough leaked material to credibly justify pulling an entire album rollout. Unless, and think about this carefully, the album was never actually finished in the first place. But here's the part that really hits different when you think about the human side of all this. Drake's fans, they've been waiting. They've been defending him through everything. They've been holding on to hope that Iceman would make it all worth it. Every delay, every broken promise, every cryptic post that led to nowhere. They believed in him. And now, they're watching their favorite artist crumble in real time. They're seeing him make excuse after excuse, They're watching him avoid the one thing he's supposed to be good at, making music. These are people who genuinely invested their time, their energy, their emotions into supporting Drake through one of the lowest points of his career. And what did they get in return? Nothing. Lies, delays, and now they're being gaslit into thinking this is all part of some master plan that doesn't exist. That's somebody's favorite artist letting them down over and over again. That's people who defended Drake through the beef, through the memes, through the public humiliation, and they're being rewarded with silence and broken promises. You can see the frustration building in the fan base, the doubt creeping in, the realization that maybe, just maybe, Drake isn't who they thought he was. That's a painful thing to process when you've built your identity around defending someone. But here's where things take a very dark turn. Because while Drake stalls, while Iceman keeps getting refinished, his most unhinged fans are spiraling. The longer he delays, the more they start building their own narratives. And some of those narratives, they're dangerous. We need to talk about what happened with Rihanna and A$AP Rocky's family, because this isn't just about album delays anymore. This is about real people, real families, getting caught up in the toxic spiral of stan culture gone wrong. Now this is the part that hits different, and honestly makes this whole Drake situation even more disturbing. Recently, reports came out about an absolutely insane situation involving Rihanna and A$AP Rocky's house. According to multiple news outlets, a woman allegedly pulled up to their home in LA and did something so serious, she reportedly got hit with a $10 million bail. $10 million. You don't see numbers like that for a minor misunderstanding. Now, thankfully, and this is the only good part of this, reports say Rihanna, Rocky, and the family are okay. Nobody in that house ended up hurt. But imagine that for a second. You're at home, with your partner, with your kids, private life, behind gates, far away from the noise, and someone you've never met in your life allegedly shows up at your door on some extreme fan nonsense. That's straight nightmare fuel. But here's where this connects to Drake, and where things get really ugly. Online investigators started digging into this woman's background. Her name is Ivana Ortiz from Florida. And what they found on her social media pages in the weeks leading up to the incident was deeply disturbing. She was posting about Drake, liking Drake content, boosting anti-Rihanna rhetoric using Drake as the mascot for her hatred. This wasn't just a random person who happens to know Drake exists. This looked like a fully radicalized stan living inside that toxic cross-section of Drake fandom and anti-Rihanna bitterness. And here's the part that really exposes how rotten this culture has gotten. When users called this out, when they posted screenshots showing this woman's connection to Drake's fanbase, Drake stans did not say, "This is insane. We do not claim this. We hope Rihanna and Rocky are okay." No, they attacked the person who found it, flooded them with hate, called them a liar, tried to spin conspiracies like, oh, they work for PG Lang, oh, they're TDE plants, oh, they're part of some Rock Nation agenda. Anything except, wow, one of ours might have gone way too far. We should address that. That's messed up. Because at the center of all this discourse, all these Twitter wars, all these think pieces, there's a family that had someone allegedly show up at their home. Those kids didn't sign up for this. Rihanna didn't sign up for Drake's stan delusion pulling up to her front door. This is where the parasocial game stops being funny. This is where stan culture stops being jokes and edits and streaming parties and turns into something genuinely dangerous. And the worst part? Some Drake fans were actually celebrating this, acting like it was part of the Iceman rollout, saying Rihanna deserved it because she didn't choose Drake over Rocky. How sick do you have to be to even think that way? Now this whole thing gets even crazier when you zoom out and look at the pattern, because this is not the first time Drake's name has been attached to allegedly unhinged fan behavior. Around a decade ago, there were stories about a Drake fan allegedly pulling up on Joe Budden over some Drake-related drama. Joe handled it way differently. He confronted the situation directly, spoke on how warped that kind of obsession was, and called it what it was: delusion. So this isn't brand new behavior, but it has evolved. It's gotten bigger. It's gotten darker. And the response from the Drake stan community this time shows just how far gone some of these folks are. Instead of distancing themselves from this woman, instead of saying, whatever her fandom is, we don't back what she did, a chunk of them allegedly went full victim mode. They're trying to make Drake look bad. This is a smear campaign. You're blaming Drake fans for everything now. Some even started hinting like, this is promo. This is part of the Iceman rollout. Do you understand how sick you have to be to even joke that something like this is part of an album campaign? And again, Drake didn't tell this woman, go do this. Nobody's saying that. But what people are asking is, what happens when an artist constantly feeds a narrative of, they stole from me, they're against me, they betrayed me, they picked the other guy over me? And then that same artist's fan base spends years directing hatred at people like Rihanna and Rocky because Rihanna didn't choose Drake. We've all seen it. The jokes, the tweets, the narratives. Drake stole Rihanna's girl. Rihanna fumbled by not picking Drake. She owes him. So when a clearly unstable person is already living inside that toxic stew, it's not hard to see how that energy can give them a twisted sense of mission. Look at Drake's new orbit. The people he aligns himself with now. Aiden Ross, XQC, the streamer world. He sits in chairs spewing conspiracy theories, villainizing people's wives, villainizing regular people, and his audience eats it up. There was that moment with Ebro. Remember when Drake allegedly DM'd people telling them to go slower after Ebro's show got canceled? He was literally wishing bad things on people, and his fans cheered. When you have a community of millions all spewing the same rhetoric, when they see Drake co-signing toxicity, they think it's a green light. They think they know him. They think they are soldiers in his army. And for the vulnerable ones, the ones like Ivana, it's all too easy to jump off the ledge. This is what stan culture has become under Drake's influence. Not just passionate fandom, but full-blown radicalization. So what are we actually looking at here? Because this is bigger than just Drake, bigger than one album, bigger than one insane stan moment. What we're seeing is how toxic stan culture plus influencer-era artist behavior can turn celebrities into cult figures and fans into unpaid soldiers. When an artist constantly pushes, they're against us, they stole from us, the industry is rigged, he stops being just a musician. He becomes a leader of a tribe that believes it's at war. And when you have millions of people who feel powerless in their real lives, but powerful inside a fandom, that's dangerous. Because some of them will do anything to feel like they're part of the story. Make a hate thread, harass a critic, spam someone's comments with threats, or in the worst cases, try to bring online delusion into the real world. That's what allegedly happened at Rihanna's house, and that's what everyone's afraid of seeing more of if this continues unchecked. Artists like Drake love riding the line. They love using stan pages to push narratives, rewarding toxic accounts that ride for them, dropping subs knowing full well their followers will attack whoever's being subbed. They get the benefit of a rabid fan army without ever having to take accountability for what that army does. It's plausible deniability. I never told them to do that. But at a certain point, when the patterns keep repeating, when it's Joe Budden one decade, Rihanna the next, you can't just pretend the energy you pump out has no real-world impact. So yeah, there are Drake fans, and there are Drake stans. One group loves the music and hopes he can make something great again. The other group is out here spinning conspiracies, laughing at families being put in danger, and defending every lie, every delay, every meltdown like it's their personal mission. And the sad truth? Right now, the second group is the loudest face of his legacy. So where does Drake even go from here? Let's be brutally honest. Iceman has already under-delivered, and it doesn't even exist publicly. We've had a fake hacker narrative, 4 alleged versions of the album being finished, no release date, no real single dominating the streets, insider pages outright saying the rollout collapsed. On top of that, we've got a fan base in full meltdown, beefing with everybody, attacking anyone who mentions Drake's name without praise attached, and now tied to one of the ugliest stan incidents we've seen in years. At this point, the bar is on the floor. People aren't even asking, will Iceman be a classic? They're asking, will this even be listenable? Will this even be better than his worst stuff? Fans who used to brag about Drake's dominance are now coping with, well, at least he'll do numbers. But we all know, once you hit a certain level, numbers don't save your legacy anymore. If Iceman drops and it's mid or just another forgettable playlist, that might be the final confirmation that this era of Drake is over. And if he doesn't drop it at all, if this thing keeps getting refinished until people just move on, that might be even worse. Because then the story becomes, when hip-hop finally checked him, Drake ran. He distracted, he played games, he let his fan base crash out online instead of picking up the mic and answering through the music. History will not be kind to that. Meanwhile, Kendrick will still have his catalog, Cole will still have his, new artists will keep rising, the culture will find new voices to rally around, and Drake, he'll be the case study, the warning, the artist who had everything and then drowned his own legacy in conspiracies, delay tactics, and a fan base that forgot what music was even supposed to feel like. Stay locked in, because this story is still unfolding and it's only getting wilder. We've got Iceman allegedly being rebuilt from scratch again, insiders saying the rollout is cooked, Stan wars getting nastier by the day, and a whole conversation brewing about how far is too far when it comes to supporting your favorite artist. Reports, new leaks, more fan investigations, it's all still dropping. So I want to hear from you. Do you still believe Drake can drop a truly great album at this point? Not just big numbers, but a real, respected, culture-shifting body of work. And second, do you think artists like Drake bear any responsibility for the way their fan bases act in the real world? Or is it all on the individuals who take it way too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading all of them. Make sure you like the video if you're tired of the excuses. Subscribe if you want real breakdowns and not watered-down industry-friendly nonsense. And turn on notifications so you don't miss a single update. Because anytime new info hits about Drake, Iceman, Rihanna, or this whole collapsing empire, we're breaking it down here first. I appreciate you for tuning in. Stay safe out there. Remember, music is supposed to be something you enjoy, not a reason to ruin your life or anybody else's. I'll see you in the next one.